A trip through the Sahara at the end of 1979. My name is Göran Hansson, retired master mariner. I worked in West Africa as a tugboat captain. I had ended a 3-year contract. After my 3 years I could have flown home, just like everybody else, but I didn't. Instead I bought myself an old Volkswagen bus, sometimes called a hippie bus. My wife and I, a colleague from work, through the Sahara Desert, from Buchanan, Liberia to Tunis in Tunisia, from Tunis via Italy to the town of Eslöv, just across the Öresund bridge from Copenhagen. It is now 45 years ago, and this is the story. The pictures were taken by an old-fashioned camera. Mine was an Olympus pen. It took half-frame diapositive pictures. The photos are not good, but they are as good as they get. This is the harbor of Buchanan, Liberia. To the left, harbor traffic. That's where the tugboats were parked when not in use. And to the right, a bulk carrier that we pulled in and out of the harbor. The bulk carrier were loading iron ore pellets. This was my boat, tugboat Taurus. It was once brought from the USA. The Lamco mining operation stopped in 1989, 10 years after I left. I don't know what happened to these fine tugboats, Pollux, Castor and Taurus. My tugboat Taurus, here pushing a cargo ship against the quay. The captain at the controls is a younger version of myself. Saying farewell to all our friends at the Lamco Nautical Club in Buchanan. 3 adventurers ready for the Sahara. Mats to the left, me, Göran, in the middle, my wife Anita to the right. Not very well dressed for the upcoming Sahara adventure. Reversing from the Nautical Club, one iron ore ship in the background. But that's a job my remaining colleagues will have to deal with. My job at the port was over. This is the route we took. First Liberia, then Ivory Coast, then Upper Volta, or Burkina Faso as it is called today, then Niger, then Algeria, and finally Tunisia. Why this detour east, you may ask? Well, this satellite map may explain. Our little booklet, A Traveler's Guide to Africa, recommended it. In those days it was very difficult to pass through the desert terrain going straight north. The Sahel was grassy and bushy and drivable to us in our old Volkswagen bus. Due east to Zinder in Niger and then north to Agadez. As we approached the actual desert, the roads became sandy piste, sometimes several kilometers wide. The only real difficult part was in the no man's land on the border area to Algeria. This booklet was our only guide. No maps. GPS was not yet invented. But 2 master mariners should be able to navigate through the desert anyway. We hoped. The first pit stop in the middle of the Goodyear rubber plantation. About an hour into the long trip ahead. Time to take a breath and a cold Liberian beer. And wonder what we got ourselves into. As you can see, the bus is very well stowed. This was the route we took through Liberia. The Nimba Mountains contain all the iron ore that was shipped to Buchanan for export. The border road out of Liberia was a disaster. Why are all border crossings so neglected, at least in those days? So was the border crossing between Liberia and the Ivory Coast. The old Volkswagen bus was pushed to the limit. Anita uttered her first family quotation. "We'll never make it to Eslöv." Eslöv is our hometown and destination. Our first night in the jungle was a bit scary. Complete darkness. We stopped at the side of the road on the other side of the border. We heard a lot of strange sounds and noises around us. We locked the doors carefully. As it turned out, we woke up the next morning next to a swampy lake. The crossing of the border into Ivory Coast went smoothly. We had our first encounter with washboard driving. Not nice treatment to our Volkswagen bus. Everything shakes and rattles. There were two types of road into the Ivory Coast. Paved tarmac in and out of the main cities. The rest washboard type laterite gravel. We didn't see any wild animals during the passage of Ivory Coast. None whatsoever. We passed through the city of Buchanan. We made a second overnight stopover, this time a few kilometers north of Buchanan. We were still a bit wary of the sound of wild animals in the dark of the night, but we didn't hear any. All we heard was a couple of cows roaming. Back on the road again, a short stretch of paved road, then back to laterite gravel washboard. We learned to drive with one side in a ditch to spare the bus. It was a bit smoother. Eventually, we reached the border crossing into Upper Volta, or Burkina Faso as it is called today. Upper Volta was more or less a transit trip, with the exception of a pleasant stay at a nice hotel in the country's capital, Ouagadougou. We passed 3 rivers in Upper Volta: Black Volta, Red Volta, and White Volta. They all converge in Ghana to the south. Easy bridges over all of them. But we noticed that one of the wheel bearings had taken a beating on the Sahel laterite roads. Ouagadougou. How do I remember Ouagadougou? A lot of garbage on the sides of the streets. Black vultures hopping around trying to find a meal. A myriad of Ouagadougians riding on blue Peugeot mopeds. Ouagadougou, the state capital. First decent restaurant since we started the trip. Anita tried to find some delicious French food. She didn't find any. She bought some cans of Spam and cans of sardines. She tried the local meat market, but decided to stick to the cans of Spam. Back on the road again, same old laterite washboard. It was easy to camp in the Sahel, just stop the bus anywhere in the bush. The air was clean and clear, beautiful sunsets. We continued west towards Sinda, the second largest city in Niger. Sinda is situated in the transition zone between the Sahara Desert in the north and the cultivated areas of the south. It was in Sinda we were going to change our heading to north. We passed through some small villages in the Sahel, always friendly people, waving back to us. We exchanged savas. We had a short and long wave radio receiver. At times we could listen to radio programs from home. Since it was Christmas time, maybe somebody would pass holiday greetings to us. We never got any. Note how we taped the back door. Too much dust was seeping into the car. We finally made it to Sinda at 10:30 on Christmas Eve. Sinda was the major stop before the actual desert. we had been on the road for almost 10 days, driven 3,204 kilometers, and yet we were not yet halfway to the Mediterranean coast. We had spent 10 days driving due east in the Sahel to reach this waypoint, the city of Zinder. From Zinder, we had to change heading to north towards the real adventure, the real sandy Sahara. On a hotel parking lot in Zinder, we met a couple from the Netherlands. We felt sorry for them, having lost their front windscreen. Little did we know what would happen to us a few days later. We had a few beers in the hotel lounge. Without these two desert travelers, we would never have made it through the Sahara. It was the Dutch travelers who tipped us that without the steel racks, we would never have made it through the Sahara Desert. Our heavy-duty conveyor belt mats were useless in the sand, they said. We found that out on the first try. The mats ended up as a wrinkle behind the wheels without the bus moving at all. But the nice Dutch couple told us that at the hotel parking lot leading out of Zinder, they had seen an old man selling a pair of heavy-duty steel sand racks. We went there, and they were right. After a lot of hustling with the old man, we became the owners of the steel racks that saved us on many occasions on the days ahead. French food was hard to find. Canned spam and other conserves were available at some places. But dates, olives, and oranges were sold in every town. They basically kept us going through the desert. Filling gas before heading north, 150 liters. The regular tank, plus one we had installed under the seat. I remember the filling guy looking under the car to see if it leaked. We looked for the best hotel in Zinder. When we got there, we decided not to stay. Dusty, primitive, and poor service. Let's rather celebrate Christmas in the bush. We left Zinder and headed north, towards the actual Sahara Desert, with two steel racks on the roof. Grateful, too, the Dutch couple. Without their advice and tipping us of the old man in town, we wouldn't have made it. We had exchanged money from traveler checks at the airport. Petrol tank filled up, all 150 liters. We didn't find any French food, only dates and oranges. That's me on the photo, contemplating what we had gotten ourselves into. So from Zinder it was finally time to head north. Goodbye bushy Sahel. Hello Sahara Desert. Another lonesome Hausa traveler on his horse, waving to us and called "Ça va." We called "Ça va" back. We didn't see any wild animals during the whole trip, none whatsoever, only cows and goats. After a full day's drive from Zinder, it was time to stop and prepare for Christmas dinner in the Sahel Desert. Notice the Christmas tree on the roof rack. No fancy dishes on the menu, but good enough for three wannabe Sahara Desert travelers, soon, hopefully, to become actual Sahara Desert travelers. A couple of egg cups served as schnapps glasses. After a few hours' drive the following day, we heard some strange noises from the back wheel. We had to get the toolbox out and tighten some loose bolts. Young spectators from the town of Tanut came out to watch. Eventually, the bushy Sahel landscape changed to less bushes and more sand. There was actually no road to follow, only sandy piste. and occasional dry and lonely bushes. We were now heading for the town of Agadez, just on the edge of the vast and sandy desert to the east and our desert to the north. Anita wrote logbook. She took note of every burnt-out Volkswagen bus we saw. This is one such wreck. She noted 20 of them. We were getting closer to the sandy Sahara. Only 2 desert towns remained, Agadez and Arlit. We arrived in Agadez on the day after Christmas Day 1979. Every house, including the only decent hotel in town, were built with brown clay. That's us taking a Christmas break, having a cold drink on the roof of the hotel. Little did we know of the catastrophe that would hit us the following morning. Driving out of Agadez on a short stretch of paved road, we met a fast-driving truck. It carried what looked like a heavy load of uranium ore. The truck was coming from north, in the opposite direction. It spread a cloud of dust, also containing a big piece of rock. It shattered our windshield. We lost our windshield, but we gained a bar. Mats had a cold beer we managed to buy at the hotel in Agadez. We soon ran out of paved road, back to the sandy piste. The piste could sometimes be more than a kilometer wide. It was all about choosing track wisely. Only an occasional lonely bush could be seen in the landscape. Eventually the sandy piste got sandier and the tracks deeper. According to Anita's logbook, it was about here we got stuck for the first time. That's when we found out that our fantastic conveyor belt mats were useless in the desert. We silently thanked our Dutch friends that led us to the heavy steel racks. After Arlit there was nothing but sand until we reached the border checkpoint at Asamaka. As we often noticed, border roads are neglected. So was the case here, to say the least. The French had placed 200-liter drums to follow. But as we got deeper into the desert, they became more and more sporadic. The piste led us to a small oasis, Asamaka. It's a small desert town, the only border crossing out of Niger leading to the north. Not much more than a desert fortress. Before we were allowed to drive into no man's land, we had to spend the night with other travelers. Eventually, the checkpoint police let us go. Now the real Sahara showed us its sandy face. We soon learned to reduce pressure on the tires from 2.5 kilos to 1 kilo, eventually to 0.8 of a kilo. The bus then had a better flow over the sand. On the photo you can see Mats far ahead on the right, selecting piste track, and me in the bus following his guidance. Low gear, high revs, that's what counts. Anita waiting behind to take the photo. As we approached the no man's land, it soon got sandier. It didn't take long until we got stuck in the sand. First digging, then the newly purchased steel racks under the back wheels. Then the conveyor belt mats in front of the front wheels. It worked pretty well, but still a lot of digging. Sometimes it looked hopeless, lots of sand to be shoveled. Anita repeated her pessimistic prediction from the Liberian side of the border to Ivory Coast. We'll never make it to Eslöv. Often the bus was knee-deep into the desert sand. The only tool was the shovel. and the heavy cinder steel sand racks. The procedure as usual: dig sand first, steel rack in front of the rear wheels, conveyor belt in front of the front wheels, high revs on first gear, let go clutch. We knew that the paved road started a few kilometers south of the desert town of Tamarasset, and we knew that the part of the loose desert sand ended soon after the Algerian border post in Gusam. We met very few going in the same direction as us, a few more going south. One thing we learned: the fancy four-wheel terrain vehicles got stuck just as often as we did in our old Volkswagen bus. But in the Sahara Desert, everybody helps everybody. We had just passed a deep sand pit, a four-wheel army-type vehicle going south. We stopped and had a chat and warned them of the sand pit ahead of them. We could see the car bumping along in the sand and ended up in the sandy hole, crossways. We went to see them and offered our help. A suspension crossbar was broken. There was nothing we could do, so we had to leave them. I have often wondered how these nice people solved their problem. It was their first desert encounter. It was our final sandpit. After the border checkpoint in Guisam, the desert surface changed from loose sand to more drivable gravel. We met some very nice German travelers who felt sorry for us. We had lost our windscreen in Agadez. They gave us a foldable plastic replacement. We had again a cover for our front window. How grateful we were to these German friends. From the southern outskirts of the old town of Tamarasset, we finally found asphalt-paved road that we have been waiting for. We arrived on New Year's Eve. We left Cinder on Christmas Eve. That's 8 full days of driving, 700 kilometers, of which the difficult sandy part from Arlit to Tamarasset was about 250 kilometers. The sandy part took us 7 days to pass, not much more than 30 kilometers per day. After Tamarasset, the bushy landscape started to reappear. I was so happy with the tarmac paving, I just had to leave the car and feel it under my feet, and take a photo of the faithful Volkswagen bus. Driving on paved road was wonderful. I am sure the old Volkswagen bus agreed with us. We had seen about 20 burnt-out Volkswagen buses on our journey. I was happy mine didn't become number 21. Here we took a break to admire our taped-on plastic windscreen. We passed the oasis of El Golea, saw it from a distance, but we didn't stay. Overnight camping in the desert. Passing the northern Algerian Atlas Mountains with a plastic front windscreen wasn't easy. A narrow gravel road with a dangerous mountain abyss on the side. Me driving and Mats sticking his head out of the right window, warning me when I got too close to the edge. Near the top of the mountain, Anita took the opportunity to make a snowball. On top of the Atlas Mountains, reflecting back on crossing the Sahara, we had traveled 5,400 kilometers from our starting point in Buchanan, Liberia. We had 1,700 kilometers left to go to our hometown in Eslöv, Sweden. Reflecting back on the journey, those we met were very friendly and helpful. Everybody's waving to us and called "Ça va?" Not once did we feel threatened in any way. Often with the Volkswagen bus buried in the sand, We regretted what we had gotten ourselves into. But we had done it and endured the hardships. What a fantastic journey! We took the ferry to Naples in Italy, got a new front windshield in Innsbruck, Austria, drove through the night through Germany and Denmark. We arrived in Eslöv at lunchtime on the 8th of January 1980. We had made it.